1950s had wild cars, but some were so weird and unreliable, even mechanics refused to touch them. Number one on our list, the 1958 Edsel Corsair, and here's why mechanics say you should run far, far away. First, that push-button transmission built into the steering wheel sounds futuristic, but it was a disaster. The system often failed, leaving drivers stuck in gear, and fixing it was a nightmare. Then there's the build quality. Ford rushed the Edsel to market, which meant sloppy assembly and endless small issues. From leaking gaskets to electrical gremlins, mechanics had to chase faults that never seemed to end. Parts are another huge problem. Since the Edsel brand died almost immediately, many components were unique to this car. Finding replacements today is a hunt and often expensive. And let's not forget the design itself. The huge, quote, horse collar grille made the car heavier, which strained its suspension and steering. More wear, more repairs. Put all that together, unreliable transmission, hard to find parts, constant breakdowns, and strange design choices that nobody wants to work on. Even back then, mechanics warned people off the Edsel Corsair, and today, that advice still stands. Up next, we've got an even stranger car. Stay tuned.
Next up is the ultra-luxurious 1957 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham, a car that looked like a dream but turned into a nightmare for mechanics. At first glance, it was ahead of its time. Stainless steel roof, suicide doors, and loaded with gadgets. But the biggest problem? That fancy air suspension. Cadillac's early air ride system was meant to give drivers a smooth, floating feel. Instead, it constantly leaked, sagged, and failed. Mechanics back then hated it, and even today, restoring it means endless air leaks and expensive rebuilds. Another headache was the sheer complexity. The Eldorado Brougham came with power everything. Seats, windows, trunk, and those old motors and switches fail all the time. Finding original replacements can cost a fortune. Plus, this car was hand-built in limited numbers. That might sound special, but it means unique parts that are rare and pricey to source today. So, while the Eldorado Brougham looks like a glamorous piece of 50s history, mechanics agree it's a wallet-draining headache. If you ever see one for sale, admire it, but maybe don't buy it. Up next, an even stranger European oddball that left American mechanics scratching their heads. Stay tuned. At number 3 is the 1956 Citroën DS, one of the most futuristic cars of its time, but a total headache for mechanics, especially in America. The DS looked like it came from another planet. Sleek design, covered wheels, and advanced tech way ahead of its time. But that high-tech magic was exactly the problem. The DS was packed with complex hydraulics that controlled the suspension, steering, and brakes. Sounds amazing, until the system leaked, which it did. A lot. Back then, American mechanics just weren't used to dealing with high-pressure hydraulic lines running all over a car. Fixing leaks, flushing fluid, and getting it to sit level again took ages. Parts were another issue. This was a French import in the 50s. Good luck finding replacement hydraulic pumps or spheres without waiting weeks and paying a premium. Add in the unusual design, even changing a headlight or a wheel could confuse a mechanic who'd only worked on American iron. So while the Citroën DS is legendary for its style and innovation, many mechanics say it's the one car they'd rather not see in their shop. Next up, the weird little bubble car that's more fridge than ride. Don't miss it. Number 4 on our list is one of the strangest cars ever made, the 1955 BMW Isetta. At first glance, it looks like a cute cartoon bubble on wheels. But mechanics know it's more headache than fun. First, let's talk design. The entire front of the car is the door. It swings open like a refrigerator. Cool idea, but not so cool when you have to align the entire body just to fix a hinge. Underneath, the Isetta has a tiny single-cylinder motorcycle engine, squeezed into a cramped space. Mechanics hate working on it because access is tight and awkward. Even basic maintenance feels like surgery. Then, there's the parts problem. The Isetta wasn't built in huge numbers and used lots of unique pieces. Finding spares today can be pricey and time-consuming. And don't forget safety. With 3 wheels, on some versions, tiny tires, and barely enough power to keep up with traffic, the Isetta is basically a novelty, not something you'd want to trust for daily driving. So while it's a fun museum piece, mechanics agree, leave the Isetta in the showroom unless you're ready for constant tinkering. Next up, the tiny American sports car that broke more than just speed records. Stick around. Number 5 is the 1950 Crosley Hotshot, America's first real tiny sports car, but a mechanical headache no one wants today. At first, the Hotshot looked like a fun idea, small, lightweight, and cheap. It even got some racing wins back in the day. But the problems started under the hood. Crosley used a super thin sheet metal engine called the Cobra, short for copper brazed, which sounded high-tech but cracked and leaked like crazy. Mechanics hated trying to keep those blocks sealed and running. Even when Crosley switched to a cast iron block, reliability didn't get much better. Weak axles, fragile transmissions, and cheap parts meant constant repairs. Add in the fact that Crosley was a tiny company. When they went under, so did easy access to parts. Today, you'll hunt for spares at swap meets or pay a premium to get custom pieces made. And let's be honest, the Hotshot might look charming, but it's tiny, slow, and uncomfortable for modern roads. Mechanics agree, it's fun to look at, but not fun to keep alive. Stick around, up next is a budget car so basic and badly built that even mechanics couldn't save it. You won't want to miss it. At number 6, we have the 1951 Henry J, a car so basic and cheaply built, the mechanics still roll their eyes at its name. The Henry J was Kaiser Fraser's idea for an affordable car for the masses. The goal? Keep it so cheap that anyone could buy one. But they cut corners everywhere. Early models didn't even have a trunk lid. You had to fold down the rear seat to get to your luggage. Under the hood, it used an old 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder engine, which was simple but underpowered and prone to overheating. Mechanics back then constantly dealt with cracked blocks and blown head gaskets. Build quality was poor. Cheap materials meant rust came quickly, and things like door handles, latches, and interior trim fell apart fast. Finding parts today is just as painful. Kaiser Fraser didn't last long, so good luck sourcing original panels or trim without spending a fortune. Mechanics say it best. The Henry J is an example of too cheap to last. Sure, it's quirky and historic, but you'd spend more time fixing it than driving it. Next up, a bizarre luxury car mashup that looked cool but turned into a nightmare in the shop. Don't miss it. Number 7 is the 1958 Packard Hawk, a rare car that looked bold but left mechanics pulling their hair out. By the late 50s, Packard was on its last legs. To stay alive, they rebadged Studebakers and gave them flashy designs, and that's exactly what the Hawk was. It looked like a custom sports coupe with a big chrome nose that some people loved, others hated. But under the skin, things got messy. The Hawk used a supercharged Studebaker V8, which sounds exciting, but the setup was finicky. The forced induction system needed constant tuning and often failed if not maintained just right. The unique body panels and trim were Packard-only parts, so when the company folded soon after, finding replacements became nearly impossible. Mechanics struggled to fix crash damage or rust because even basic parts didn't match other models. Combine that with outdated electrical systems and Packard's dying dealer network, and you've got a stylish car that's tough to keep running today. For collectors, it's a rare gem, but for your local mechanic, it's a nightmare that's better left in the garage. Next up, an early European minivan so strange that mechanics dreaded every repair. Keep watching. Number 8 is a 1959 Fiat Multipla, world's first real minivan, but also a rolling headache for mechanics. At first glance, the Multipla looks adorable, a tiny bubble van that could carry the whole family. But under that quirky shape were problems that made even seasoned mechanics groan. First, the tiny rear-mounted engine was overworked trying to haul 6 people and luggage. Overheating was common, and the cramped engine bay made repairs awkward and time-consuming. The Multipla's unique forward control design, with the driver practically sitting over the front wheels, added to the challenge. Suspension parts, steering linkages, and brakes were all squeezed in tight spaces that made simple fixes a chore. Finding parts for a 50s Fiat America? Good luck. Back then, import parts were rare and expensive. Today, you're either hunting down from Europe or pay top dollar for reproductions. Mechanics also hated its rust-prone body. Early Multiplas were notorious for dissolving in wet climates, making restoration a constant battle against corrosion. So, while the Multipla's a charming piece of automotive history, even mechanics agree it's better as a museum piece than a daily driver. Up next, a luxury car with dragon skin that turned into a scaly mess. Stay tuned. At number 9 is the 1953 Kaiser Dragon, a luxury car with a name that promised power but delivered endless headaches for mechanics. The Dragon was Kaiser's attempt to stand out in the early 50s luxury market. To grab attention, they covered the interior with what they called dragon skin, a fancy vinyl that looked like reptile hide. But here's the problem. It cracked, peeled, and faded fast. Replacing it meant tracking down rare original material or paying a fortune for custom upholstery. Under the hood, things didn't get much better. The Dragon used an aging inline-six that was underpowered for a car loaded with luxury extras. The engine struggled to move its heavy body, which wore out parts faster and overheated if pushed too hard. Rust was another enemy. Poor rust-proofing meant floors and lower panels rotted out quickly. Repairs were time-consuming and expensive. On top of that, Kaiser didn't last much longer after the Dragon, so spare parts for body panels, trim, and interior pieces are scarce. Mechanics say restoring a Dragon is more trouble than it's worth, unless you're doing it for show only. Next up, a pickup truck with car tailfins that confused everyone, including the mechanics. Keep watching. Number 10 on our list is the 1957 Dodge swept-side pickup, a truck so strange it confused buyers and frustrated mechanics. In the late 50s, Dodge wanted to cash in on the tailfin craze sweeping American cars, so they took a regular pickup and bolted on the rear quarter panels from a Dodge station wagon, complete with big chrome fins. The result? A truck that looked half car, half workhorse, but didn't really please anyone. For mechanics, this mashup meant mismatched parts. The wagon body panels didn't align perfectly with the truck bed, which made repairs and rust fixes tricky. Finding replacement panels today, nearly impossible. Underneath, the swept side was still a basic Dodge truck, but the extra chrome and custom trim added weight, putting extra strain on the suspension and brakes. More parts to wear out, more work to keep it running right. And since it sold poorly, parts like the unique tailgate trim or fin sections are collector's items today, if you can even find them. So while the swept side looks cool at a car show, mechanics know it's a nightmare of mismatched panels, rare parts, and extra work that makes a simple truck far too complicated.
A number 11 on our list is the 1954 Hudson Jet, a small car that was supposed to save Hudson, but ended up being a headache for everyone, including mechanics. The Jet was Hudson's gamble to enter the compact car market, but it fell flat. The styling was bland and boxy at a time when people wanted flashy chrome and fins. But looks weren't the only problem. Under the hood, the Jet used an inline-six that was decent, but nothing special. And it had a cramped engine bay that made even simple repairs like changing spark plugs a pain. Mechanics back then complained about tight clearances and awkward layouts that turned quick jobs into long ones. The bigger problem was parts. Hudson was already struggling financially when the Jet launched, and just 2 years later, Hudson merged with Nash to form AMC. That meant unique Jet parts were suddenly orphaned. Mechanics struggled to find trim, body panels, and engine parts that fit. To top it off, the Jet's body panels were rust-prone, so repairs often meant fabricating replacements or hunting rare spares. So while the Hudson Jet is an interesting piece of automotive history, mechanics agree it's a headache to fix and not worth the stress. Finally, at number 12, we have the 1959 Renault Dauphine, a cute little French import that gave mechanics more headaches than just about any other small car of its time. The Dauphine was designed to be an affordable, stylish city car. It was lightweight and economical. On paper, the perfect second car for American families. But in reality, a rust bucket with constant mechanical issues. The tiny, rear-mounted engine overheated often, and the cooling system struggled, especially in hotter American climates. Mechanics found the engine bay cramped and awkward to work on. Even basic maintenance like changing belts or adjusting the carburetor could be a chore. Then there's the rust. The Dauphine's thin body panels and poor rust-proofing meant they'd dissolve in just a few years, especially in wet or salty regions. By the time owners brought them in, mechanics were fighting rot more than fixing engines. Parts availability was another problem. Back then, sourcing French parts across the Atlantic could take weeks. Today, it's still tricky and expensive to restore one right. So while the Dauphine looks charming in a vintage ad, mechanics will tell you if you want one, be ready for endless patchwork and constant tinkering. And that wraps up our list. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more weird car history.
See, this one I made more than 1950s, being stuff more of engine, because enough of those cars are a real jive free. Askly how made between this two. And if you enjoyed this trip through automotive oddities, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments which forgotten flop shocked you the most. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more car history you won't believe.